Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. By accessing this presentation, you're inviting me to share this information regarding our passage through this challenging and very hopeful time. This is the care and feeding of a New World Age report for the Gregorian date of December 30th, 2013, and 1 eesh, or Jaguar, in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. Also, we're going to be discussing the Capricorn new moon and Mercury moving into Aquarius. December 30th is 1 eesh, or Jaguar. It carries the themes of shamanism, earth magic, strength, and intelligence, spirits of the jungle, gratitude, speed and stealth, Mother Nature, feminine and feline energy, mysticism, and the expansion of consciousness. Jaguar represents the primal spiritual force which inhabits all of us, and to the Maya, the jaguar spotted coat represented the Milky Way galaxy. The Maya also referred to the Milky Way as the white bone serpent, Wakankan, and the path in the sky to the center of the universe. This 13-day cycle is about exposing our dark spots to the light and being transformed. And this is a time to release fear so that we can be in our intuition and also turn our attention and focus to taking care of the planet and our bodies. During this Trecena, we enter into January, which when we take the January being the first month with the digits of 2014, when we add them all together, we get 8. And so we have an 8-month in numerology. Basic numerology reduces numbers between 1 and 9. So when we think about 8, it represents a time of picking up the pace as we're preparing to complete the cycle next month. It can also brings revisions to financial situations, businesses, investments, and industry. The 8 represents the justice adjustment archetype in the tarot cards, which is about finding our balance to know ourselves. This also brings the energy that what has begun must be completed. Although the numerology of January and February of 2014 repeats the numerology of November and December of 2013, with January being an 8-month and February being a 9-month, the new cycle actually begins in March, which in astrology, the new year begins in March with the vernal equinox. So this month is time to tie up loose ends so that we can clear our plate for something new, new events that begin to give us hints about a new direction to take. So January and also February are about clearing out old people, places, and things to make room for their new counterparts that will emerge in March. And then 2014, when you add those digits up together, it becomes 7. And the 7 year has an emphasis on the inner aspects of awareness, the strength, wisdom, and knowledge. And the 7 year in the Tarot is the Chariot. So 2014 is a Chariot year. The Chariot is about finding our stillness, even as we're in motion. And Taoist philosophy remarks that change is successful when the great rooted tree by the flowing river is combined within a natural setting. Given that we are in the midst of great global and individual transformation, the Chariot reminds us to incorporate equal proportions of contemplation and gratitude into 2014. And something else that I find interesting about this is that we're about to enter into the Chinese New Year of the Greenwood horse. And typically what pulls the Chariot? Horse. Anyway, before I get into the daily energy for the 1 eesh, or Jaguar, as we're getting started here and into January, it really is bringing a fair amount of chaos as the Trecena begins, and pretty much through the full 13 days. I mean, we've got Venus retrograde in Capricorn, Mars is in Libra and it's opposed by Uranus and squares Pluto. And I'm thinking at this point, we're all well aware of our value as individuals and can share our gifts so we flow with these rapid, unexpected changes in our journey into 2014. Mars is in its detriment in Libra because the opposite sign of Aries is a sign of Martian rulership. Traditionally, this is considered to have difficulty operating positively in Libra because of its retrograde cycle. Mars is going to spend 8 months in the sign of the Scales. Typically, Mars spends 2 months in the sign. So this placement for most of this year is uncomfortable and monotonous. Mars agitates, and in Libra, it's about relationships, and it can lead to social anger. This may cause us to see an increase in passive aggression, which I personally despise. Mars has been in Libra for most of December, and I've already seen people out competing for love. They're willing to fight for a partner. People are becoming aggressive in their quest for romantic love. And we've spoken over past reports about the Uranus-Pluto square's energy to transform power structures and through the rebellious actions of individuals. And then we add Mars into this picture. This is the god of war joining the party. It's going to be even more aggressive. And then in April, we have a grand cross with Pluto in Capricorn, Uranus in Aries, Jupiter in Cancer, and Mars in Libra, and they're all at 13 degrees. And this is particularly of interest in the United States because it exactly aligns with the July 4th, 1776 Cancer Sun of the USA's natal chart. It's important to realize that planets in transit seek balance. They only do damage with that which is out of balance. For instance, we have Pluto in Capricorn. It's been there since 2008. It's about bringing balance back to power structures. Prior to 2008, Pluto was in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is very optimistic. Pluto rules structures and businesses and government and things like that. So in Sagittarius, that time leading up was very optimistic. Think of the banking systems. People thought that they were just making foolish and overly optimistic investments, whether it was bad debt in the housing market or whatever. And then Pluto in 2008 moves into Capricorn, and you can see that the astrology being played out on the material plane, because all of a sudden those systems all started to collapse under their weight of due to the overly optimistic period. So the planet of transformation wants to restore balance back to power structures and back to governments, corporations, the banking system, and all of this is all of those systems really are in great need of rebalancing. In January and during this Trisena, we're adding Mars, the warrior archetype, to this mix as he dances not only with Uranus and Pluto, but also with Mercury and the Sun at the beginning of the month. And something to note about this. New Year's Day, we have a new moon, and I'll talk about the new moon. Some people are putting out this stuff of, it's the first time in 19 years that we've got a new moon on a New Year's Day, and that may be true, and then they spin it as all optimistic. This New Year's Eve and New Year's Day are really, really challenging, and anybody who's putting that stuff out and spreading it around, they absolutely have not looked at the astrology of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Because if they had, they wouldn't be, just saying it's all sunshine and butterflies, rainbows, and big smiles or whatever. This is really a challenging beginning for 2014, and anybody who tells you different has not looked at this data, and I'm presenting the data because that's what's important, not what somebody made up, but what you can go back and verify as facts. So anyway, Mars prefers overt expression of aggression. It's not happy in Libra. seeking balance and harmony in relationships and social situations. It's basically gritting its teeth with a forced smile. And I expect we'll literally see this metaphor being played out in our interactions with friends and family as Martian desire and obnoxiousness and aggression is setting off these larger cycles with Uranus and Pluto. And with Uranus, it means that we could have events that are radical and unpredictable and rebellious and upsetting. And up until January 10th, I expect people to really be feeling restless, which may lead to reckless behavior, as there's this overwhelming sense of need to be liberated from anything that feels oppressive. And this would be a time to look for world events, as we're going to see unexpected eruptions of violence to topple decaying power structures to restore balance. The greater the imbalance, the greater the backlash to restoring harmony. Martian energy can be constructively channeled into physical activities, so don't neglect to get some physical exercise because of because of obligations of the New Year's Eve or preparing for a holiday or celebrating. To make sure that you're getting out there. And for me, the weather here in Maine provides plenty of opportunities to exercise, usually in the form of shoveling snow. Also, as we're talking about exercising, exercise caution, because accidents are common when Mars interacts with Uranus, and anger and rage are to be expected with Pluto challenging the god of war. However this plays out in your life, try to see the higher purpose of these events is to restore balance. So, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, whoever says, oh, new moon on New Year's Day, they're just making stuff up. They haven't looked at the data, and that's why I'm presenting you the data. And you can go and do your own research, but I guarantee you it's just not sunshine, butterflies, rainbows, and big smiles. It's this could blow your hair back, and if you just approach it with these rose-colored glasses, you're likely to get hurt. And I don't want you to get hurt just because somebody made something up. That's why I do these reports. So anyway, before I get into the daily energy for Jaguar, on the 30th, we've got all the planets appearing to move forward from our vantage point here on the Earth, except for Venus and Jupiter, which appear to be moving retrograde or in reverse motion. And just think about it, from our perspective here on Earth, we're expecting things to be moving counterclockwise through the constellations in this diagram. But Venus is on this inner track, so it's moving clockwise from our perspective as it moves in between the Earth and the Sun. And Jupiter, the Earth is just passing it on the inner cycle. So when you're passing a slower moving car, sometimes it looks like it's moving backwards compared to landmarks in the far distance, like the constellations. I've discussed the implications of planets moving retrograde in past reports. I'm just going to kind of go over these briefly. Again, we have Venus is in Capricorn. This is the planet of aesthetics, romance, and money. And it's going to remain in the sign of the goatfish for 4 months. Venus has moved through its shadow period since November 20th, when it crossed the point where it's eventually going to turn direct, and remained in its shadow period prior to turning retrograde on December 21st. And during that time period, that's when we received information about needing to adjust our direction. And Venus retrograde from the winter solstice, or summer solstice if you're south of the equator, on December 21st. It occurred at 28 degrees and change, almost 29 degrees of Capricorn. And it's going to be retrograde until January 31st, when it hits 13 degrees of Capricorn. This is a time where we notice events related to our relationships and or money that shifts our thinking to prepare us for a change that we will implement after Venus is direct. Also, Venus retrograde brings people from our past pulling at our heartstrings. And then we've got Jupiter, the king of the gods, and it's in the sign of Cancer. Jupiter is about good fortune, opportunities, faith, religion, beliefs, and expansion. Cancer is about the family, the home, nurturing, and protection. Mostly what I find with Jupiter retrograde, as with any retrograde cycle, it's a review of the past. With Jupiter, what gets reviewed are missed opportunities. In Cancer, these are likely to be related to home and the family. And when I think about the two retrogrades of Venus and Jupiter in concert during January, we may have folks reviewing their past relationships for missed opportunities. Because Venus also rules money, we might be also reviewing our past financial dealings with an eye for choices that did not work out as planned. Overall, something from the past needs to be resolved as we are moving into a 9 month in numerology in February. So whether it's love relationships or financial connections, and with Venus in Capricorn, there needs to be a commitment to whatever the resolution is. This is a push to tie up loose ends as we move into 2014, the new season with Venus retrograde. Overall, I think the trap to watch out for is regret. The past is the past. So let go of regrets. Try not to waste much thought about whether someone who dumped you in the past regrets their choice. If people, I think, when you really are reviewing your life, regret is a natural thing, but it's also something that we need to process and let go of. When I think about people who tend not to have any regrets, they tend to be shallow people or people with Alzheimer's. If you toss them aside, if you've been tossed aside by somebody who just doesn't seem to regret that, they probably are doing you a favor. But with Mars in Libra, some will aggressively pursue those partners that they regret losing. Another thing that I find interesting about this year is that we have 2 new moons in January, none in February, and then another 2 new moons in March. This sets a powerful new energies in motion that require the numerological month of February to release what's old, worn out, whether it's aspects of the self, life situation, attitudes that no longer work, or concepts, beliefs, or perceptions that have outgrown their usefulness. So let's look at the daily vibrational energy for this trecena. December 30th is 1 eesh or Jaguar. This is unity experience through enjoying nature. And we have the sun in a square, meaning it's making a 90-degree angle from our perspective here on Earth to Uranus. So from here, you can see 90-degree angle. That's where the square is, which is a disruptive transit, adding to the likelihood of upsets and behaviors that are upsetting to others. Also, unexpected mechanical problems, a sudden argument, or separation within a relationship. With the sun involved, we're talking about a conflict between egos. Folks are more likely to feel restless, so it might be important to be conscious of this possibility and find a way to allow the restless energy to express itself rather than being shocked by how it's being expressed unconsciously. This adds accident-prone energy of the transits leading up to the 30th. Because this is a theme. If you look at the last report, we're building up to a very, very intense New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And anybody who thinks this is just all beautiful and fine and is expressing that hasn't done any homework. This is a time to realize that those accidents are not happening to you. You're creating them. The drive to do something to free and liberating is strong. And so try to exercise through your consciousness to give expression without causing damage in your life. And then we've got Mars now. This is intense. This is intense. So we've got Mars. It's down here in Libra. From our perspective here on the Earth, is creating a 90-degree angle to Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth. This is continuing to ramp up the intensity leading into the new year. And from December 29th to January 3rd, this is the peak of this expression of aggression, unexpected rebellion, and transformation. Many are going to spend this time with friends and family with the potential for reactivity and stressful interactions which involve our personal relationships. This would be a time to release Martian energy constructively through physical activities and exercise. Just, put that energy into something. Hey, it's Mars. Put it into sex. This brings a showdown between the planet octaves and co-rulers of the sign of Scorpio, because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, and Pluto is the planet octave for Mars. So this is about transformation of the world around you, or having fierce disagreements and power struggles. This arouses ambition and the desire to get ahead with higher energy to back the drive with action, usually with opposition coming from others. This can be ruthless and underhanded in dealing with anyone who is an obstacle to achieving the goal. This is definitely a time to avoid dangerous people and places. So if you're going out for New Year's Eve, I know some of us have to go to the theater district, which can be a dangerous place. If you're going to see a show or something on New Year's Eve, I found myself in some really questionable places on New Year's Eve, in seeking entertainment, like going to see a concert or something. This New Year's Eve is particularly something I'd avoid. I'm staying home. Anyway, also we have Mercury in harmony with Chiron. It is continuing to allow deep healing of wounds that were previously unconscious or inaccessible through understanding on an intellectual level and the availability of new awareness and wisdom. Be compassionate with others and with yourself. Also on the 30th, we've got the Sagittarius moon finding support from Uranus. It's stimulated by Mars, and that sextile to Mars occurs at 6:36 a.m., and that's Eastern Standard Time, so convert it to wherever you are. And then it turns void of course for the rest of the day until it moves into Capricorn the following day. So the day really begins with having the impulse to engage in activities that make us feel more alive. And then later, it brings the desire to work independently from others. And then after that point at 6:36 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's void of course for the rest of the day, which is really about avoiding major decisions on purchases. But it's good energy to use for resting, to assimilate all this energy and experiences that's been impacting us during this intense period that we're in. The 31st is two men or eagle. It's duality experience. Experienced through seeing from a higher perspective. And it's on the 31st that Mercury is merging with Pluto from our perspective here on Earth, so that they're at exactly the same degree of Capricorn, which intensifies mental activity and a penetrating quality to communications, along with having a critical eye for what needs to be transformed in our environment. So this is like New Year's Eve on steroids, with increasing intensity. On a mental level, there's a penetrating quality to go deep in discovering the truth in which superficiality just doesn't cut it. If you're at a party and you're trying to be superficial, nobody's going to be okay with that under this influence. They'll probably put up with it because Mars is in Libra, but this also indicates a capacity to influence others, to speak with a persuasive voice. People will present opinions as facts, believing that they're right and that the other is wrong. So be careful with who you engage with under this transit, as many will make statements with no regard for the feelings of the listener, which they may in turn interpret as being threatening. This can bring more acute powers for penetrating analysis of human nature, which is best not shared without an invitation to do so. Let's not forget that this transit is affecting everyone, so we're likely to be the recipient of these behaviors from others, as being, we can feel like we're the victim or the perpetrator or both, because everyone's got this energy affecting him. Probably the best use of this transit is to get preoccupied with a project or an idea to work on independently for others, and just wait to share what you've come up with for another day. And then Mercury is in a square to Mars. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 90-degree angle on the 31st. It's continuing to compound the intensity with another difficult transit. This one has people feeling touchy and irritable, with almost any communication being interpreted as a challenge. It's hard to imagine that someone doesn't get set off by the implied attitude of this transit. People are going to feel the drive to defend their ideas, from a simple debate to an all-out fight. This is a time when it's important to realize that beliefs and thoughts can change, and to not identify our ego with them. This is also a transit indicates the potential, another situation where there's a potential to be involved in accidents. It's particularly likely for someone who is trying to suppress their anger, because that Martian energy, that's when it doesn't get vented, it doesn't go into some activity, it just goes in a direction, and that usually turns into an accident. So, find a way to work with this energy. That's why I'm putting it out here for you. Okay, we got the sun. It's sextile Chiron. It's bringing illumination to our wounds with the intensity for healing. But given all these other transits, any vulnerable feelings may add to the potential for this perfect storm celebration of the death of 2013 and the birth of 2014. Also on the 21st, we've got the Capricorn moon in harmony with Neptune, which brings greater sensitivity to others' emotions, with possible psychic impressions for those who are open to that. Although it can be very confusing, because we're talking about Neptune. It can be bring us new spiritual, or it can just confuse us. And then January 1st, 2014 is 3 key, or wisdom. And this is about taking action through introspection, meditation, and forgiveness. And believe me, those qualities are really a better place to be putting your energy on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day than going out and partying and socializing and putting yourself in situations that might be unfavorable. So anyway, like I said, people are posting this thing about New Year's Day and a new moon in first time in 19 years, and butterflies and rainbows and people blowing bubbles or whatever. It's so much crap. Anyway, this new moon is almost at 11 degrees of Capricorn on the 1st. It's being challenged. It's a square to Uranus and Mars. It's merging with the Sun, Pluto, and Mercury, opposing Jupiter, and supported by Saturn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. This new moon represents new beginnings related to work, commitments, discipline, the elders, which might begin as a limitation or obstacle, which must be overcome or at least bypassed, so that this new energy can proceed. This is intense because this new moon is the head of a T-square with the Sun, Mercury, and Pluto, and they're all at right angles to Mars and Uranus that are in an opposition. This has the rational mind being influenced by emotions, irritability bringing a danger of needless disputes, stimulation of our drive for personal freedom, wanting to be alone in our thoughts and feelings, and folks acting hasty and jumping to conclusions, and a very intense emotional experiences as energies come to the surface from the deepest parts of our psyche. New moons do bring an opportunity to set an intention for manifestation on the following moon. So look at the house of your astrology chart that contains 10 degrees, 57 minutes of Capricorn to consider the area of your life that's being activated for this new moon. For me, that's my 7th house of partnership and marriage. But it's also about any one-to-one relationship. So I would set an intention related to using this energy, such as finding new ways to relate with folks with which I have one-to-one relationships, whether it's a romantic or a business relationship, trying to make a deeper commitment because of Capricorn, or overcoming some limitation with that Saturnian energy that rules Capricorn. Pluto here, it brings in transformational elements to this new moon. So this transformation purpose is aligned with the new moon opportunities that are opening up. And forget about it being 19 years. A new moon conjunct Pluto, I don't know how many years it is, but it's a lot more than 19. This is significant, but it's not significant for the reasons that are going viral on the web. The new moon is particularly potent for making big changes through taking a leap of faith, leading us into 2014, certainly releasing outdated limitations like removing your mask at a masquerade New Year's Eve party to reveal a greater awareness of our authentic self, our new direction, and our purpose. And then we've got the sun, and it's merged with Pluto. So from our perspective here on Earth, these are exactly the same degree of Capricorn, which illuminates underlying experiences, usually of a dark nature, that leads to fundamental evolutionary change from within. This can bring the power of change that we can see as major occurrences in the world with the themes of growth, evolution, decay, and death, along with birth and regeneration. Some of us may have to contend with a person who's trying to exert unreasonable power over us, which is likely to force us to defend our right to do things in a way that is correct for us as authentic beings. With Pluto, this may have a hidden element that has powerful ramifications. It's a good day to avoid areas where you're likely to encounter street crime. Mars in the mix, this could really result in violence. Personally, I'm looking at this time period, I'm being very careful about who I'm interacting with, where I'm going, so I would just caution you to look at this new moon as inner transformation and not go out and celebrate, a Gregorian year, because it's just an arbitrary date. The second is for Kaban, or Earth in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. This is about stability through gratitude for Mother Earth. And at this point, the sun is square Mars, okay? So from our perspective on Earth, we've got another 90-degree alignment, which is a day when we're more conscious of ourselves and our motivations. But this could be a day where we observe a serious ego conflicts between people. Folks are looking for vulnerabilities in others and flaws in arguments and any errors which can be challenged. or another, any other little chink in the armor of the other. This is a high energy transit. Perhaps it's perhaps too high if we're not careful. So watch for signs of people becoming irritable and impatient, especially when things don't go exactly as planned. Flexibility. This is a good time of year to be flexible during all this stuff. Probably the best way to avoid being assertive, avoid being assertive unless it's absolutely called for. This is a time when people are projecting their irritability and aggression onto others without realizing that it's really originating from within themselves. The day can be particularly careful of conflicts with authority. Even if the claims are legitimate, we're likely to encounter a hostile reaction with this transit. It could be good to vent this energy into some type of physical activity again, and it will give your aggressions a satisfactory outlet. Without outward expression, this type of energy can lead to illnesses and accidents. If it's projected, it will attract angry and difficult people. As the moon is in Capricorn, merges with Venus. That's it's an interesting thing. Moon version with Venus. It's actually cheerful, warm, gregarious, and wanting to go out and socialize. Realize the moon conjunct Venus. That's a couple of hours. This other energy is lasting days. So then on the 3rd, January 3rd, it's 5 Etsnob. It's Flint. It's empowerment through being introspection. Truly, this is a time of turning in. And then we have Mercury over here in opposition to Pluto. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is 180 degrees in opposition. This expands information and communication. This can bring a day or two with good feelings. So we're starting to move out of more of the tougher stuff. It has an optimistic outlook. With care, this can be helpful in contractual negotiations, planning meetings, discussions, and conferences. Because Jupiter is influencing Mercury, the caution is to be aware of grandiose thinking, where the whole is much clearer than the parts. Read the details carefully with regarding all the fine points, because we can lose precision and clarity. So read the small print. Thoroughness will lead to success at this point. In communicating with others, the influence of this transit comes off as arrogance or cockiness. It's important to be flexible and open to another's point of view. Some will want to engage in debating today. Just try not to take any intellectual jousting too seriously. Plans made now or previously and executed now will be furthered by this transit, as long as we take care to make accurate and perceptive judgments. With the Aquarius moon stimulated by Uranus and finding support from Mars, and is challenged by Saturn, the day's emotional energy moves from pleasant yet restless feelings and the desire for emotional excitement to later feeling a little more confident than usual, with the ability to assert ourselves in a positive manner. And then finally, people are feeling lonely and isolated when Saturn joins the mix. The 4th is 6 Kawak, or storm. This is about being in the flow through recognizing the gifts in adversity, according to the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. While the Pisces moon merges with Neptune, which brings feelings of empathy for those around us, including the possibility of clairvoyance or telepathic experiences for those who are naturally sensitive. Then January 5th, we have 7 Ahau, or sun, according to the Mayan Tzolkin calendar, which is reflection through honoring the wisdom and the memory of our ancestors And on this Ahau Sunday, we have the Sun opposing Jupiter. So again, an opposition is, from our perspective here on Earth, that these two planets are exactly 180 degrees, which has a double potential that we see with a lot of oppositions. This is another day of feeling good and cheerful and optimistic. So, it's just really tough around New Year's. But as we start to move past that, we're starting to, have feelings that nothing can go wrong today, which has good points and bad points. The best way to find success with this transit is not to go overboard in any area. Of course, this is exactly what can happen at this time. So this can also build our self-confidence, giving us the courage to do something we've never done before. It's another Jupiter alignment, so we need to avoid being arrogant. Any negativity is being expressed. Being expressed also expands and can turn into conflicts with others. It's important to know your listener if you're offering constructive criticism, to avoid and avoid offering more than can be heard by that listener. Authority types may interpret informing as overstepping some sort of boundary, or even as self-righteousness. As with any opposition, like a full moon, this is a time when something that was planted back in June is coming to fruition. Basically, this is a time, at this time, don't overextend yourself or make commitments you can't keep. With the moon in Pisces in harmony with Pluto, the Sun, and Mercury, and finding support from Jupiter and Saturn, the day's emotional energy moves from experiencing deep emotions on a profound level to later feeling balance between our inner and outer worlds, with people having a pleasant sense of well-being. And finally, lots of folks are chatting with their friends, neighbors, co-workers, well, then later having a little more sober, realistic view of life. And the 6 is eesh, or crocodile. This is balance through nurturing new beginnings, according to the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. And then Mercury is in a sextile to Saturn. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 60-degree angle, which is great for constructive criticism that comes from being able to see what can be improved in our surrounding environment. We are very conscious of the flaws, including our own. So we can use our critical eye to see what should be changed in our to bring some kind of improvement. But this can be very serious in the pursuit of betterment. So make sure you're honoring what is positive and not getting overwhelmed by the many imperfections that we're able to view with this transit. Older people may serve as teachers and mentors at this time. This is very nice energy for working carefully on a mental task from a place of concentration and precision, whereas activities that require a greater scope of vision may be more difficult. This is about details rather than the overall pattern. This is difficulty seeing the forest for the trees. And then we've got the moon in Pisces in harmony with Venus, which is about pleasant energy to be with friends and loved ones. January 7th is 9 eek, or wind. This is patience experienced through communication, which, interestingly, we've got the planet of communication, Mercury, as it conjuncts Venus. That means, from our perspective here on Earth, Venus and Mercury are at the exact same degree of Capricorn. This stimulates our appreciation of beauty, whether it be art, poetry, music, people, or nature. In Capricorn, people may be more likely to express their committed love for each other. this merging of our mental and emotional realms within ourselves. So folks may experience concepts with emotions or express their feelings in intellectual manner. It's hard to separate out the emotions and the intellect. So we might express our feelings intellectually, we might express our concepts emotionally. This is wonderful for creative energy or any type of artistic expression. This transit can be favorable for financial dealings along with scientific research in seeing the patterns of the universe and appreciating them aesthetically. And then we've got the first quarter moon is in Aries. It merges with Uranus. It's challenged by Pluto, Jupiter, and the Sun, and it's opposed by Mars. The emotional wave really moves from people feeling impulsive and acting rashly with moods changing quickly and unpredictably to having the compulsion to act in ways that may not be good for us in the long run. And then opposing Mars, which influences people to be more excitable and irritable, which can cause problems in our personal relationship. With a little later, it shifts with having more benevolent and generous feelings for those that are in our immediate environment, with Jupiter. And finally, it brings challenges to following the daily routine, and that would be the square when it's squaring the sun, when the quarter moon is exact. On the 8th, we've got 10, Akbal, or night. This is about manifestation through contemplating the stars. And so what we contemplate on that particular day is we've got Mars in a square to Jupiter. So for our perspective here on Earth, this is forming a 90-degree angle, which brings energy for successful activities and furthering new projects, but with a caution against being reckless during the surge of unbridled desire. Folks are going to be tempted to shoot first and ask questions later, acting quickly without considering all the factors. Unjustified optimism that our efforts today will turn into gold may unbalance our judgment. Through planning and forethought, we may actually find success, but it will come about based on it will come about not based solely on luck. So just the transit is this, future. Jupiter tends to be future oriented, and so it's good for furthering new projects. Just try not to overextend yourself or your resources. There's also a fondness for taking risks and pushing beyond normal limitations of energy. Impulsivity now will be paid in the future, which really might be less than pleasant, or it may result in accidents at this time. So with the moon in Aries challenged by Venus and Mercury, it moves from pleasant energies for being with others that we want to know better to later folks being critical in their communications, particularly with people that they have intimate relationships with. January 9th, we've got 11 Con, or seed, or lizard. This is resolution through planting seeds or making new connections. While the Taurus moon's in harmony with Neptune and supported by Pluto, it moves from being very sensitive to the moods of others to later with Pluto bringing out intense emotions and stimulating our sensitivity, which also favors sexual relationships. The 10th, we have 12, Chichan, or serpent in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. This is understanding through being flexible. While the moon is in Taurus, is in harmony with Jupiter and supported by the Sun and Venus and opposed by Saturn, The day moves from feelings of being in the flow and having a sense of wholeness to later feeling inner and outer equanimity, and then feeling isolated and lonely. And then it shifts to enjoying pleasant feelings and social interactions. And then January 11th, we have 13 Kimi. This is transformation, movement to the next stage through releasing what no longer serves us. And Mercury moves into Aquarius. So it's moved all the way over and across the line into Aquarius, which shifts our focus of our communications and thinking to more issues like social consciousness, well, and being true to our individuality, and to share our inventive ideas with groups and communities. And then we have Venus is in a sextile to Saturn. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 60-degree angle. It pleasantly encourages us to look at our responsibilities in relationships in a positive way. There's a sense of gratification in being a service to our loved ones. It's good for the group. It becomes more important today, and that people will work to further the ideals, even if it means that on some level that there's a kind of self-denial here. This is a good time to talk with your loved one about your expectations from each other. This is a practical energy which favors business affairs and commerce, particularly particularly with art and other things of beauty. This is also good for creativity that demands close attention to details. And then we've got the Sun is conjunct Venus. So from our perspective here on Earth, they're at the same exact degree of Capricorn. This is wonderful for self-expression in relationships. A certain amount of assertiveness to gain the attention of those that we love. This is good time to socialize, make new contacts, friends, and even possibly a new love interest. This is favorable for financial activities. Just avoid being extravagant or self-indulgent. The negative of this is that people think that they are the most fascinating and interesting person in the world, which others interpret as being vain and foolish. Also on the 11th, the Sun is in a sextile to Saturn. Again, 60-degree angle from our perspective here on the Earth. This is a great day for getting things done. It brings an orderly state of mind and a strong sense of self-discipline. This is practical energy that is not interested in idealistic, abstract considerations that have no application in daily life. It favors all matters related to work or profession, with what is accomplished and being done carefully, with wonderful concentration and attention to detail, which may impress authority figures. Advice from older people is also favored under this transit. It's not the best day for relaxing because it can be a little serious in its frame of mind. And then we've got the Moon finding support from Mercury and challenged by Neptune. The day's energy goes from feeling in touch with our emotions and expressing them to others to daydreams and fantasies being more important than reality. So no matter how these energies are affecting you during this one Jaguar Tzolkin, take some time out to be in the flow of the planet by being in nature, watching a sunrise or a sunset, communing with the stars, or being conscious of the moment through introspection, meditation, or just being really conscious with somebody you love. Every single day we have is a blessing. No matter what dramas are beckoning to distract us, I know we're all here giving the performance of our lifetime on the world stage. Just take some time out to observe the play, observe the movie, as well as act your part by remembering you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. As always, I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of Care and Feeding of a New World Age will be on January 12th of 2014 for one Manique or deer. We'll also talk about the Cancer full moon, the sun moving into Aquarius, and you can check us out on Facebook or YouTube or the Mind Magics website. I encourage you to share this information as videos or text as widely as you choose. I will be discussing the astrology of 2014 with an emphasis on January and providing some short human design readings to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebels show on Orion Talk Radio on Wednesday, January 1st. That show is at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I actually usually come on to do the news, and I'm on the show around 1:30. This is a great opportunity if you want to get a short free reading. If you get into their chat room and contact Katie Research, they will call you anywhere on the planet for free. If you want to participate in the radio show and get a reading or ask a question, please, participate on New Year's Day. It'll be great. If you're watching this, it's after New Year's Day. You'll have another opportunity on the first weekday of February, which I think is I believe that will be I want to say Monday, February 3rd. Look at your calendar. I might be wrong. It might be a Friday. Anyway, first weekday of every month. I'm a guest on the Earth Meets Rebels show, and it's a great time to come and get a free reading. Also, listen to the transits for the upcoming month. As always, I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. And I am providing readings and wish to make this service available to the greatest amount of folks. And I've created three options that have three different levels of compensation. These are epic readings. When I give a reading, it usually, even the shortest one, they're usually between an hour and a half and 2 hours, and sometimes they're quite a bit longer. These readings are really designed to provide you information to help you navigate these difficult times. At the basic level, we look at your human design chart to help you understand how to use your individual strategy and authority in making life decisions based on your unique design. I include 3 months of astrological transits as they relate to your natal and progressed astrology chart along with the human design reading at the middle level, so you're kind of getting 2 readings in one. And then at the top level, both those readings are then recorded and sent to you as an MP3 file that you can download to your computer and go back and forth over and over again and really suck the marrow out of that information. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to either be able to call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect on Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to try to keep these videos and everything we're doing here at New World Birth freely available. Best thing you can do to make a donation, get a reading. You benefit, we benefit. As always, I am blessed that you've taken the time out to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste and Lakesh, and looking forward to connecting with you in the future, whether it's in the form of a reading or the next video. Whatever the case is, thank you so much for your interest and your attention to these offerings. I really, it does my heart good to know that you connected with this passion of mine. And peace, everybody.